Hi everyone, thank you for joining the session today. So as Sarah said, we're going to go through some tips that we can cover for the dashboard that go beyond the kind of standard creation of a tab and using the myosh library of report widgets that are already there. So if you are a myosh administrator, you'll have the ability to be able to create your own widgets. So essentially any of your modules that you have within your myosh environment, you'll be able to create a report widget from. Just consider that it is a front-end interface that has some limitations. So for some of the more complex type reports that you might be wanting to build, you might find that there is a requirement that you would need to go to myosh to get that scoped, and then they would have to design that with one of the developers for you. It's just purely because of the limitation of the dashboard configuration wizard. We'll see how we go today though, and hopefully there are some tips in there that you've not come across before within the report widgets. So I'm just going to create a tab. Like I say, the Manage Widgets is a feature that's only available for administrators of the system. So when you go into the configuration option and you have your dashboard configuration open, you'll see Manage Widgets. Within here, you'll have the ability to create, edit, and delete widgets. Just be aware that the options for editing and deletion will only apply to any that have been created internally within your environment. So any of the myosh standard suite of report widgets cannot be changed. For the first example that we're going to look at, we're going to create a widget. So once we've selected that option, we'll select next, and then we'll place in a title. That title is going to show across the very top of your chart bar. So for this one, we'll have it based on our injury report, and we want to group it by affiliation. From the select the widget type, we have a list of available chart types to choose from. So of course, depending on the type of report that you're wanting to generate, you'll be able to select an appropriate widget type. For this one for today, I'm going to choose a side-by-side column. Then what we need to do is pick out the module and also the form. And because it relates to the injuries, all of that information will fall within the injury report. So in the generate data series from field, we're going to pick this one to be the affiliation. So when you select from that drop-down list, depending on the size of the form, you will see there are quite a lot of fields that you can choose from. You are able to start typing in what you're looking for, and you'll see in here how it's jumped to that specific field. I'm just going to use one single data series for this example first of all, and then we select the next button. The filter configuration will apply in most cases to all of the widget types that you can select from. The custom filter, those of you who are familiar with using the dashboard, is in the bottom left-hand corner of each of your report widgets, the filter options. So if you're wanting to filter any of your results even further, you can add those filter options in here. I think we'll leave it blank for this particular one. I might just pick bodily location. Be careful with picking things like dates. Of course, with a date, that list can be extensive. So where you know that there's going to be quite a large selection of choices for people to choose from, I would just be a little bit more considerate of whether you choose that as a filter. So for today, I've just chosen bodily location and department as a further filter that we can use. And then we'll select next and then finish. Unfortunately for this particular example, I've not got any results. They were shown earlier. Let's select save. Any of the filters that we've just applied will go into the list just in the bottom left-hand corner. So as you can see, we've got department and we've also got bodily location. If you struggle with finding the way to navigate through that list, I find it easier sometimes to just collapse and then expand, and it just makes it easier to be able to navigate. Let's go back into configure, take a closer look at that widget. And sometimes this will occur when you're actually creating the report widget. It might not give you the results that you expect. I'm going to go into edit an existing widget. And we can see in this case how the report data has now pulled through. So quite often it very much is just an issue with regards to the report type that you've selected. What we're going to do next is look at creating one for actions specifically by priority. So if I go back into report widgets, manage widgets, create one, place in the title. For this one, it is going to be a pie chart. It's nice and simple. We're going to pull the data from the actions module. And because actions only has a single form, we'll just pick action form. And we're going to generate the data series. In this case, I want to know the percentages of actions by the level of priority that we have. So I need to find the field with the priority in it. Again, I can have available filters, so it might be the type that we want in there, and perhaps even a project. When we get to the final step for the widget configuration of a pie chart, it enables you to be able to label the display. First of all, by default, it'll go to percentage, but you can see that you've got the number of records, or you can have both enabled. Decimal places, it can be by default, which is rounded to the nearest whole number, and you'll see the data series in there that it's pulling through. So what we've done there is pretty standard. We can go one step further with this. So let's say we wanted actions by priority, but we were only focusing on the actual actions that were overdue. So anything that's been closed off or is currently open, we're not too bothered about. It's only anything that's overdue. I'm going to go back into this manage widgets. I'm going to edit that existing one. I'm going to change the title so we can clearly see what the data is representing. And when we go onto the filter configuration, you'll see that we've got this global filter option, which is at the bottom. So the global filter will enable us to pick out a particular value from the form that we just want included in the results. So for this example, if we look for priority, in fact, no, it's going to be status, isn't it? When we select status, we want to go into the values at the bottom and just move over overdue. So the results then is still going to show us the percentages based on the priority of actions, but only focus on anything that's in an overdue status. Now, sometimes these types of things happen where it doesn't retain that particular report widget. That is likely because I hadn't previously saved the dashboard tab. So just consider you might need to have saved it first. Okay, and we can see that it's now changed. So the global filter is a really useful tool to utilize within the actual manage widgets option. Other little visual type things that we can do are configuration of the actual charts themselves. So you might want to necessarily focus on a particular area of a chart, and you might want to change the color of it, for example. It might be in some cases some customers have corporate colors, so they will include those representative on various levels within the business. So to make those changes, first of all, within the actual report widget, you'll need to select Configure. In the Data Series panel, just pick out the actual series that you're wanting to change, followed by Edit. We can change the actual custom label if required. So if you needed further annotation in there, you could do that. And then we can just click onto Custom Color, pick out from that color palette, select OK, and then select OK again. So although it's a very simple change, quite often, as we know, visually, those colors are really going to help just pull out what that data is trying to tell us. I'm just going to save this chart for now. And for the next chart that we're going to create, we're going to look at how we can create a hazard bar chart. This is just going to be fairly simple in the sense of it's going to look at the various different types of hazards that have been logged within our module. So once again, we're just picking the module and picking the form out, generate data series. So always be aware of which fields, before you start creating your actual report, what fields you're wanting to utilize from within the form itself. So in this particular case, it is the type. And there are quite a lot for us to choose from in this list. So we do want to just get the hazard classification type in this example. We're not going to go with a multi-series with a stacked column. We'll just keep it simple. And again, we'll leave the custom filter in this example initially. So when we move down, we're able to see across globally within the business, all of the different hazard types that have been logged. Again, if we wanted to take this one step further, let's say we wanted to have this data just representative of a particular site. You'll all be aware that currently you can filter this using the hierarchy at the top. But of course, if we apply the filter here, it's going to not only apply to all reports on this tab, but it will apply to all reports within the dashboard. So if we go back into Manage Widgets, and before I do that, I'm just going to save this tab. And we'll edit that one that we've just created for the hazard. We're going to once again use the global filter. So in this particular example, let's say I just wanted those to be for, let's say, the Mount Bryant site. And before I suppose I select finish, I'll need to update the title. And there we go. So I suppose in essence, what you could do is create multiple versions of this particular report for each of your different maybe sites or business units, if you did want to see that breakdown. And of course, I've just by example pulled out hazards as a by type example, but it might be your actions that you wanted to see that specifically filter based upon a hierarchy level within the business. Are there any questions that we have coming through?
I can't see any, Catherine. Not yet.
Okay, if there are no questions, we've covered all of the elements of the Manage Widgets tool. If anybody has any specific dashboard questions, I'm happy to answer those. But if not, thank you for your time today and hope you found some useful tips.
Thank you, Catherine. I'll just put in the chat panel a link to the upcoming webinars. The next training webinar next week is on safe work method statements. So there's still a few seconds if anyone wants to ask a question, but other than that, we will see everyone or see some people next week. Just dropping that link in the chat there. And also on Thursday this week, we have a webinar, an industry webinar on using sports science and wearable technology to reduce injury risks. So the link is also, for that webinar, is also on that link. And that's on this Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Australian Western Standard Time or 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Catherine, for conducting the training today.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, everyone. See ya.